Hey everyone, Hitman Tommy here from the Two Crew Dudes podcast. Figured I'd put up a quick game room video. I shot one of these about 2 years ago, and I don't think it ever actually got posted. I think too many poor attempts at trying to be funny, and the room wasn't quite where I wanted it to be. So when all was said and done, just never saw light of day, as far as I can recall. Anyways, so I'm just gonna go quickly through here and just give you a quick tour, and that should be that. So, anyways, here's the door where you come in. This is the room where all the magic happens. And we've got some action figures across the top. And just some new Star Wars stuff that I picked up recently. And then it goes straight into my Game Boy collection. And into DS. And everything else comes across there into PSP, 3DS. And then I have my Master System games here. And below that, you'll see all my magazines. And, well, most of the magazines. I still have another box of stuff that just doesn't fit on here anymore. If there's a piece of advice I have for anybody who's watching this video, is don't collect magazines. They take up way too much space. But that being said, now that I have them, I would never give them up. I do enjoy flipping through them from time to time. There's a bin down on the floor here. That's all my loose Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games. It kind of just gets moved around from place to place wherever it's out of the way. I don't really have a spot for it at the moment. Next wall, we move into where my systems are, and I try to keep them chronologically, but sometimes they do get a little bit out of order. And down at the end bottom there is my Atari and ColecoVision games, loose and boxed. You might not be able to see them, but I don't feel like bending down to show you closer, so that'll have to do. Across the top here, we've got some boxes, 64, Dreamcast, so on and so forth, for some systems, and then we move into kind of the cornerstone of my collection, which is my NES collection. In the middle, we've got my box stuff, followed by some cartridges. They kind of overflow onto there just because I don't have enough room. Originally, this white container over here, or this shelving unit, used to hold all my NES games, but as of shooting this, I'm sitting at about 617 NES games, and they just don't all fit on there anymore. So until I come up with a better solution, that's kind of what we're going to have to go with. From there, I got a idea from somebody on Instagram that old tape deck cassette holders fit Famicom and Genesis games. So loose games down there, and then I've got a mural here that my wife and I put together a couple years ago. There's a really dirty mirror that the lady who we bought the house from probably never washed, or didn't wash enough, so it got kind of weird looking. This is definitely an improvement, and I do enjoy looking at that from time to time. Forgot Mario's on the side of this thing. From there, a few more figures, and then the second biggest part of my collection is probably my PS1 games, which go down here in this rack, and then there's actually a little bit more, about 2 rows over there. Eventually I want to put them all together, but for right now this is the best I got. And then in between here we've got my box Genesis games, a few figures, my amiibos, a few more box Genesis games, TurboGrafx 16, Sega CD, Sega Saturn, and 3DO. And then going into the next rack here is the rest of my 3DO and PS2. And actually there's more PS2 down at the bottom there. And they wrap all the way up to the top here. A couple more rows there. More action figures across the top. And it goes into GameCube and my Wii. And last wall, action figures across the top again. Get some Final Fantasy figures down towards the end there. Section for my wrestling. Various pictures of me and celebrities at Comic Cons. Some pop figures. And then the rest of my Wii, original Xbox. And then I've got a whole rack here full of Xbox 360 games. Half of which I probably haven't even played, but when you go to a flea market and they're $5, or a pawn shop and they're $5, it's a little hard to turn up. I got some packaged amiibos here. As you saw earlier in the video, I usually open up my amiibos, but I bought a few extras of ones that I kind of wanted to just keep in the box. At least until my kid's old enough that he grabs them and opens them up when I'm not watching, but oh well, deal with that when we get to that point. PS3, and then I've got my Wii U collection. I just recently got an Xbox One for my birthday, so I've got a few games for that. And then the rest of my Nintendo, so box Super Nintendo 64, and then of course my loose carts, and my very modest 64 collection. I don't really care for 64 too much, but I have the ones that I want, and really that's what you should collect, I suppose, right? And then I got some PC games and a bunch of strategy guides that I probably never look at, but again, $1.99 at Value Village, hard to turn up, so here they all are. And that pretty much brings us to the end. Got a Tomb Raider figure there, some Game of Thrones stuff, and the last rack really is just some Ring of Honor DVDs. I'm a big wrestling fan, in case you couldn't tell, and eventually these will probably have to get moved out of here because the games will overtake them, but for now I'm going to keep them while they're here, and that's pretty much it. Some posters on the back, and I guess the last part is the closet over there actually is where all my comic books are. That's probably going to be another video itself. I've got about 6,000 comics in there, some of which I really need to go through. It hasn't been organized in years. So anyways, thanks for watching, and hopefully the Two Crew Dudes have a lot more content for you in 2016. Thanks for watching.